The world has never belonged to those who accept things the way they are, but to those who imagine what could be. Progress has never come from standing still. It comes from those who challenge, who push, who believe in something bigger. They said light could never be harnessed until it was. They said man could never fly until he soared. That we'd never leave this planet until we touched the stars. The impossible? It was never impossible. It was just waiting for someone bold enough to prove it. Every breakthrough, every revolution, every shift that redefined the world began with those willing to challenge the status quo. The challengers, the disruptors, the ones who refuse to accept limits because they see what others don't. Ambition fuels them. Progress drives them. They don't wait for permission. They don't move at yesterday's pace. They may not have decades of history behind them. They may not have endless resources at their disposal, but what they do have is hunger, purpose, a belief that the future doesn't belong to those with the most, but to those with the courage to create it. They need bold. They need fast. They need partners who move like they do. And when they reach for more, they don't just need ideas. They need the right people to bring them to life. Innovation isn't just science. It's an art. The art of envisioning what hasn't been imagined. The art of anticipating the shift before it happens. The art of turning bold ideas into reality. But even the strongest challengers don't go it alone. They surround themselves with those who have been there before. Because experience, not the deepest wallets, accelerates possibility. And speed with precision matters when building what's next. Because the possible is never given. It's claimed, created, forged by those with the ambition to never stop climbing. The ones who push boundaries change the world. The ones who move fast shape the future. The ones who don't ask what is, but ask what could be. Who don't just see what's possible, but make it happen. For brands on the rise, for businesses that refuse to settle, for those who see beyond the now, hopeful for a better tomorrow. This is more than a strategy. This is more than marketing. This is the art of the possible.
Across every category that we're in, whether that's a hairdresser, a salon, a beauty product, FMCG brand, we're playing in worlds where the consumers and our target audiences have a choice, right? They have a choice. And what can we do and influence, particularly when our categories are dominated by some pretty significant players with big budgets, to try and coax people to choose us over our competitors? That's what today it was all about. It's all sort of handy little tidbits, one slide, little stories, which hopefully will resonate with you guys. There's no triangles with arrows pointing this way and that, and all sort of heady, overly strategic slide. This should be nice and accessible, dare I say possible, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. So what we're covering today, how to make choosing you feel like a win. We'll go through quite a few, I think, pretty cool examples of that. So making it easy to choose you by removing friction and guiding decision. How to earn trust fast. Ways to build belief in your business quickly, even if you're not the biggest name in the category. How to make customers feel your value. Help people see the benefit of choosing you, not just what you do, but what they actually get. And I think quite importantly, we'll wrap up with how to be the brand they notice and remember. So that's about attracting attention, standing out in the right moments with the right message without blowing your budget. Believe it or not, we make up to 35,000 decisions today. The little caveat there is that 95% of those are apparently qualified as decisions, but they're just autopilot. Things like breathing, a regular thing that just happened. You don't necessarily decide that, but the brain's autopilot making that happen. 5 to 7% of decisions, which numbers 1,500 to 2,000 decisions, are minor conscious choices: what to eat, what to wear, whether to answer that email, whether to get up at Sparrows Park and come to a theatre in Ponsonby and find something to park. But I think importantly, just under 1%, 100 to 300 of those decisions a day are those little opportunities for us to not manipulate, but maybe coax or nudge people to consider us over someone else. These are deliberate, value-weighted decisions that people make every day: what to buy, who to trust, what to act on. So these are the opportunities for businesses like you guys, the moments where brands get chosen or don't. And throughout this presentation, we'll explore some of those stories. So how do we choose what we buy? Now, this could be slides and slides and slides. I don't want to get too scientific about it, but the reality is that purchases and decisions that people make when investing money in someone over something else can range from spontaneous whims to carefully researched decisions. Even the most deliberate choices can be swayed when brands tag into ingrained subconscious drivers, nudging us to pick them over similar options. This is often referred to as neuromarketing. Some people, I haven't written it here, refer to the dark arts. We'll explore some of that stuff. I don't believe it is manipulation. It's literally what businesses need to be doing to influence people to be choosing them over someone else. Because as you can see here from these images, we're exposed to choice all the time. Here you got, this is Queen Street. Macpac happens to be sat right next to Kathmandu. You got to pick one. They're effectively more or less offering and having the same offering. Supermarket cheese section. Again, everything's much of a muchness in there. There's little jobs you can be doing, the 4 Ps, dare I say it, but you can be sort of working to kind of manipulate, dare I say it, people to kind of choose you over the other guy. By understanding these influences, we can craft experiences that feel intuitive and make your offering the obvious choice. Last slide of my preamble. These aren't my theories. If these were my theories, I would be sunning myself in the south of France, probably about now in my palatial existence. I've lifted all of this from, I believe, one of the best books on this stuff out there right now. There's people like, I'm sure we've all read, Dan Kahneman, really, really good, accessible writer. Richard Shotton, I know a few of you guys are fans of him. He's really good in the space. Rory Sutherland, if you're a TikToker, I'm not, but I've seen he does some really good TikTok clips about, they get really awesome, accessible anecdotes about why people choose the things that they do. Really, really good reading. So the preamble really is that a lot of these slides, pretty much all of them, stem from the best bits of these books and quite a lot of sort of online research. And they explain why we choose one product over another and what builds trust and what grabs attention. All right, Stan, so how to make buying from you feel like a win. Now, the reality is, I think the best place to start is that we don't assess value in isolation. Most often, we compare. We often compare when we're making a decision when it comes to what we buy. Pricing isn't just about cost; it signals fairness, honesty, and credibility. Customers make decisions based on what's around your product at the point of purchase, and pricing does play a big part of that. Anchoring, if we're going to in some detail, contrasting and clever framing can make your offer feel like a win for your prospects. Now, this skip here is just something that I sort of thought would be relevant, because I don't know if you guys are like me. I'm not ashamed to admit that I will sometimes, when I'm out with the wife, opt for the second cheapest wine, so as not to look like a cheapskate and for the drop dead bottom wine on the wine list. And there's a theory, if there's any restaurateurs here, forgive me, but there's a theory, unproven, that perhaps restaurants know that there are people like me who choose that second cheapest wine, and that is actually the one where they make the highest margin on. They know that people are not going to want to look cheap in front of their dates, and they're going to probably choose that second cheapest one. The reality is it's probably the cheapest wine for them, but they're having the most margin on because they know there's an opportunity there to play into some behavioral science. It is unproven, but that's the theory anyway. Sticking with the restaurant theme, there's a reason why on most menus, for example, you will have a disproportionately expensive thing, usually anchored to the bottom of that front page, such as, for example, the example we have here, Kobe rubbed Brandt's Barm ribeye, which is $158. That reason being that relative to that price, that roasted duck breast at $45 is actually a pretty good deal. It sets the context for everything else. It justifies, and it gives you, oh yeah, okay, I'm getting a good deal. It sets the tone. This is called anchoring. Another interesting point on this one, there's a slight aside. As you'll note, there's no dollar signs alongside all of these numbers on here. Again, that's very deliberate. The theory is that when the subconscious sees that dollar sign, in some people, like a defense mechanism sort of comes up. So I don't want to be partying with money. That's the subconscious at play. So in a lot of instances where you don't see that little dollar sign there, it feels more premium. You only usually see this in sort of premium environments, but maybe your pricing is a little bit on the high side. It can influence people to lower the defenses and invest. It's not necessarily something you can do in retail, but we do see it out there in the world. And it's also why you often see in some product pages, for example, people anchor the most expensive thing to the left-hand side is the thing that your brain sees first, particularly in the online space. Again, here with the iPhone 14 Pro, $999 there, but relative to that pricing, everything else feels like a pretty good deal. We see it a little bit in SaaS, where I'm not going to confess to be as much of an expert as I know some people are in this room. But however, from my research, you do tend to lead with the most expensive thing on the left. It does usually have some form of tricky labeling of best value because it's the thing that's anchored to the left-hand side, which again is another little bit of trickery. But it's just interesting that sort of anchors you at that price, and it helps you justify spending and investing perhaps on one of those sort of lower tier offers. Which of these two fanciful garden gnomes you reckon sold more? This one here on my right, or this one on the left? Over here. That's right. This is called anchoring. Although that one on the side does say sale, you know it's on sale. That original price that's crossed out so sets the context of how much saving you're actually making. You see this in car lots a lot, with the big number on the windscreen has been crossed out. Because it frames the savings that you're actually getting from having invested at that time. It builds trust and product value to do so. You see this a lot at good old Chemist Warehouse, who make a habit of telling you how much you would probably be paying elsewhere for that exact same thing. Why pay $240 when you can be paying $119.99? Which we'll come back to a little bit later on when it comes to the very deliberate use of 99 cents in this instance. And it's just interesting to see this play out in the world. You see it everywhere. You'll probably see it on your way to work this morning. It's just as something that you do encounter quite a lot. It's called anchoring. All right, which bundle do you think feels like a better deal? This one here is 5 t-shirts for $19.80, and that one over there is $5 for $20. This one over there, the cheaper one. Interesting you should say that. The reality is that, believe it or not, people are more likely to choose something if it's a comparison of a product, if you can easily divide the number of the things really, really quickly at a glance. In this case, obviously $4 a piece, testing how it maths. This is called the easy division rule. Again, you're seeing this out there quite a bit. It's really, really interesting that people will actually pay a little bit more because they just can clock. The brain clocks an easier to round out number faster than a $19.80. Which of these delightful lava lamps feels like a better deal here? This one here has got a total price of $100. That one over there is total price $80 plus $20 shipping. I guess the total of $100. Separating costs into components makes the base price look smaller. Now, I've been a little bit tricky here. You see, it says $20 shipping is smaller. You actually, when you get on things like eBay or Amazon, they make that shipping price even smaller. Because the reality is most people in that scenario are just looking at the base price. They don't really, shipping is just an extra little bit. You don't really consider it. So it's just an interesting observation. However, when you kind of look at things this way, if you have a total price of $100 plus free shipping versus a lower price of $75 plus $20 shipping. Yeah, this one's the old adage of the power of free. If you have the word free in there, it still resonates with people, even if it is a lesser total price point. Again, that's why you see, I don't know if anyone else has noticed or anyone else who goes on like the Trade Me's or the heat bays where you'll have the exact same listing, but just frames in different ways. They just kind of run both different ways of doing it just to kind of hedge their bets. Which one of these beautiful swimming pool installations do you think feels like a better deal? That key word is feels, right? I keep coming back to that. This one here, whole thing, value price at $12,000. That's what you get. Or the thing which is broken up into little subsections where you kind of see a little bit more behind the curtain. Which one do you think sells more? Yep. Itemize feels more transparent. You feel like you know what is behind the scenes. It doesn't feel like just a guessed number. You kind of, there's an honesty that comes with it. It's called chunking, which I think is a bit of a weird word, but whatever, that's what it is. And I think it's just another fascinating little bit of behavioral science, which I think is fascinating to look into. Here's another interesting one. 2 gym memberships. One of them is just $350 a day. The other one is less than $1 a day. Which one do you think performs better? That's right. It's the less than $1 a day. This is called the affordability illusion. Yeah, I see this all the time as well. Super sneaky. You see it on like things like infomercials. You see it all the time. They kind of make something feel a little bit more digestible. That's why I think it's super smart for people like I don't know, SaaS products to kind of have their pricing structures as annual as well as sort of monthly. They charge you more for that monthly rate, but it feels like less of an immediate loss because of it. All right, I like this one because this is something that I experience all the time. 2 identical hotel rooms, right? You're looking to go on holiday and somewhere in Spain or something. 2 identical hotel rooms. They look the same. They have one difference, and that one of them is the king room. The other one is called the king deluxe room. That word deluxe is only really used in hotels, from my experience. Exactly the same room. The only difference really between these 2 offerings is their proximity or view of one of them is overseeing a courtyard, the other one is seeing a harbour view. And the costs to the hotel for building these 2 rooms is exactly the same. They cost they're copy and paste hotel rooms. However, which one do you think or they get away with charging more for? Yeah, just the simple term deluxe, exactly the same room, but that one, and you can create value from nothing. They would go, oh, God, how can we sell this one? Oh, this one's closer to the gym. This one just happens to have a harbour view versus the other one, which is a courtyard view. Just creates value from something which is effectively the same in terms of costs up to the hotel, which is, I think, quite interesting. Okay, so 2 sets of Reebok kicks are on special. This one over here, 25% off both shoes. Pretty good deal. That one over there is $30 off. Which one do you reckon the research suggests performs better? $3? Yep, that's right. This is called the rule of 100. When the original price is higher than $100, show the sale price as dollars off the original price. Is that number, in this case 30, will be larger than the percentage discount would be. However, when your original price is lower than $100, showing the sale price as a percentage discount will be a larger number than the dollars off. It's literally as simple as showing your savings number as being bigger as either a dollar amount or a percentage amount is what ultimately drives people to choose one thing over another, according to the research. All right, I do. This is probably one of my favorites, as I see this all the time. This is not just with popcorn. This is also, dare I say it, at coffee houses where you have where you have multiple size options. This is a situation where if you just had the 2 sizes, small and large, in this scenario, $3 looks like a pretty good deal. That $11 is looking like a little bit of a stretch when you just have the 2 options. So guess what you do? And guess what cunning people do? They throw in a deliberately bad deal in the middle to justify you upweighting your spend to just get the large one. All of a sudden, that bad deal where you had 2 options becomes worth it because relative to that $9, an extra couple of bucks for the largest, it's actually a really good deal. This is called the decoy effect. You see it at Starbucks. You see it all over the place. I really love how sneaky this is, and I'll admit I usually do get a medium for some reason, even though I know this, but I think it's just a fascinating insight to explore and something for you to spy out in the world. Okay, shout out to Rory Sutherland for this one. This here is called the contrast effect. So Rolls-Royce, which are traditionally quite expensive cars, they used to show up at car shows and sort of wonder, and obviously because they're proportionally more expensive, they just wouldn't get the uptake at those car trade shows. So what they were very smart to do was to stop showing those cars off at the car shows and to start instead showing them off at jet and sort of super yacht shows, because we're relative to the pricing of everything else of those things. A Rolls Royce feels effectively like almost like an impulse purchase, which I think is again a really interesting study. I'd look into this one if you're interested. It's a really interesting example there. Okay, so this is another interesting one that works into a little sort of behavioral science. There was about 2 sets of golf clubs. With one of them, the price tag is sitting above the golf clubs. The other one, the price tag is sitting below the golf clubs. Which one you reckon sold more according to a 2020 research study? By quite a lot, 35%. That's right. Again, it's as simple as our brain's shortcut to up equals more and down equals less. In fact, it was 35% difference from literally putting a price below something. It just sells way more than it does if you put a price above it. To these, what deodorants do you reckon sells more? I think that's what's relatively obvious. On to the $7.95 or $8. That according to a 2005 study, prices that end in 95 cents or 99 cents are perceived to be significantly smaller than the 5 cents higher. Like significantly, that the value in terms of pricing difference is significant. It's called the left digit effect. People's brains see the first number first, and that's just the number that sticks with people. So in this instance, $7.95 feels closer to $7 to the subconscious mind than it does to $8. So people just gravitate towards that left-hand digit for the right product and price point. Which of these delightful red summer dresses do you reckon sold the best from this study? Well, 3 options here. You've got $34, $39, $24. I want to hazard a guess. The middle. Yep, it's the middle one. Shoppers have been programmed over years and years and years to associate the number 9 with a promotion of some sort of deal. Even though it's not, people associate in their minds that if it's got a 9 at the end of it, it's whole promotion, there's some form of discounting in there. That's programming. This was a study conducted in the late 90s. The showing found that over decades of that retail exposure, shoppers had basically been programmed to lean towards 9 as being smart ways of end their pricing. Okay, 2 delightful gift packages. Super premium, high end, something that is a luxury spa gift. It's a gifting package, right? But one of them is $199.95. The other one's $200. This is something you're buying for someone else. It's being promoted as being a gift purchase. In that scenario, which one of these 2 prices do you reckon sells disproportionately higher? Yeah, this is a 2015 study. When people are buying something meaningful or a gift or an experience or a premium item, the confident rounded number wins out more often as the purchase is based more on a feeling than anything any more analytical, or where you're buying something maybe for yourself, you're preparing a little bit more. You lean towards those sort of rounded numbers because you're, dare I say, less probably technically invested, although it is something which you're giving away to someone. When you contrast that with, however, perhaps you're buying a high-end laptop for yourself, that's the flip side, right? So of these 2, it goes without saying, I'm sure you can predict when you have a more precise number in this scenario, where particularly it's a high-end product, particularly in tech, if you are more precise with your number, even if you're a higher number, you're more likely to sell in this scenario. Moving away from pricing slightly into some claims spaces. It's called the framing effect. Same product. One of them was labeled as only 0.1% germs survive versus 99.9% of germs are killed. I think you guys can guess which one sort of performs better. They're saying the exact same thing, but this is just the framing of your language. It suggests efficacy. Same word, same wording, completely different perception. Right, to kick off this next section, I'm going to show you a quick video. So I'm going to have a glass of water, and I think it sets up the theme of the next little bit. So here you go.
Banana thing?
I have these people that come here and they get 10 samples, And it's not right for the woman working back there. She's got better things to do than just scooping out samples for them.
Girls? But what is this? Oh, chocolate.
It's swirly. People are waiting. That's not right.
No, it's not.
The raspberry chocolate, whatever that is.
Got a long wait.
Oh, could I try the tiramisu?
That's good. That's a good one. That's a good one. Get that. Get that.
I think I will.
There, get that.
Thank you.
Get that.
And I think I'd like to try the banana, please.
Banana. Oh, it might taste like, let me guess, a banana?
And some chocolate.
I mean, this is
Just
really
the plain
ridiculous. This is so
chocolate,
rude.
Just the plain chocolate.
You're like a sample abuser. That's what you are.
You.
You're abusing your sampling privileges.
What do
One
you think
sample,
about this
2
little
samples the
spoon
most. You can't just go on sample after
Yeah, I
sample.
can.
No, you can't.
You know what? I'm just gonna have the plain vanilla, please. Thank you.
Oh, a decision's been made. Oh, we got vanilla. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Vanilla. She winds up with vanilla? You gotta be kidding me. That was the vanilla.
That's just a nice sort of setup for setting up the next table. It's a choice paralysis, as in the case of I'm sure ice cream shops know that people are indecisive when they get there and they can't really decide because so many options. But when you have heaps and heaps of options, as you can see with this poor khaki, you get yourself into a little bit of the spin, and it becomes very difficult for you to kind of make a choice. More product or service options won't help people decide; it can overwhelm them. Too much choice creates pressure, indecision, and often inaction. In fact, adding more options can actually lower your conversions, which I do see happen quite a lot when new products are launched and people just go hell for leather and they're, oh, what about this one for this guy or this one that young lady? It confuses people. Fewer, clearer options make it easier for people to choose you. Simplicity equals trust. Complexity feels like a trap. Simplifying your offer isn't dumbing it down, it's making it easier for people to choose you. Which, when thinking about myself in that scenario, I kind of hark back. This is when there was such a thing as video shots, probably really, really you might be too young to remember that. But when my parents used to take me to the video shops as a kid. Obviously, they were quite liberal to be able to let me watch this sort of stuff. I would always get to the action section. It would be my go-to, and I'd sort of stand there paralyzed, just trying to decide what am I going to choose. Basically, my eyes as a young 12, 13-year-old was okay. It's got to have a big gun in it. Got to have a big scrapping dude. It's got to have something that looks really, really cool and action. And I would and the way that all these movies would be framed at the time would be like this. And my parents would get a little bit annoyed with me that I just could not decide. I'd always sort of, go, oh, this one, and then put that one back. And that's something that I thought was just a nice sort of story, a nice metaphor, something that I sort of hark back to when I broke down. Okay, keep it simple. Make that 12, 13-year-old Adam understand that this is the one to choose.
There's a story about a shoe salesman in Los Angeles in the 1950s. And a journalist asked him, what's your secret? And he said, 2, not 3. If a woman comes into my store, I'll bring her a pair of shoes. She'll try them on. And she'll say, could I see that pair, please? And I'll bring her a second pair of shoes. And she said, could I also see that pair, please? And he'll say, which one would you like me to take away?
Oh.
Because what he found is when they had a choice of 3, they bought none. And when they had a choice of 2, they bought 1.
Ah, I love that.
Right? 2, not 3. Too much choice is overwhelming.
There was a study conducted in the year 2000 called the JAM experiment, which I think is a really fascinating study, right? So a supermarket ran two experiments. On the first experiment, they let a whole bunch of people into store and they had like a sales table of jams on display. They got 24 different types of jams on that table. And they sort of observed shoppers as they came through to see what their behavior was and ultimately how many jams sold. Then those people left. They ran a separate experiment in the same supermarket. And instead, the 24 jams, they put just 6 completely different jams on the table to see how that performed and how people sort of gravitated towards that choice. So what's interesting here is that although the more choice does bring more attention, people kind of come to clamor and see what it's all about. Ultimately, less people choose to make a purchase in that scenario when they encounter so many different choice options. Whether with the 6 choices of jam, although they got less foot traffic, you can see there considerably more people actually ended up choosing something because it was just less of a mind boggle at the time. And you see this playing out in the world. I think Picks and Butter, certainly when they started out, did a really, really good job of just sort of keeping their powder dry and staying really, really focused in terms of their product offering was. I believe they just launched with the 2, smooth and the crunchy, and then that third one in the middle became a bit of a combination of the 2. Really simple, easy get. And then now that they lead the market now in terms of peanut butter. So I think it's just a fascinating study. You see it also with how these guys have shown up. Blunt, really like what the Blunt guys have done. I know that they've slightly diversified their product range, but not only are their choices quite limited, their labeling makes it really clear as to who each of these umbrellas are actually for and the scenarios that you're there to use them for, which in some instances can help justify those price tags. That's not inexpensive for an umbrella. But it just makes the choice easier to make in the bottom. You do see this out there in the tech space as well. People in Squarespace, they make it really, really clear who's their offering is for: personal, business, commerce. They also handily tell you which one's the best value or which one's the most popular. And they just make it really, really easy for you to decide which one is the right one for you in that moment. Similarly with this one here, again, you've got a little bit of everything in here. You've got anchoring with the normally this price, now this price. You've got they unpack how much you're saving by opting for this. You understand they're showing you, which is very, very nice of them, which one is the most popular, which we'll come back to in a second, because it's social proof. And just the way they frame up who it's for. Is it for an agency? Is it pro? Is it plus? I think it's just quite nicely articulated. Less is more in this scenario. Thought I'd end this section with just a bit of a flip on that, because there are some scenarios where indecision is actually a good thing. Little known facts I thought was quite interesting, that Netflix know that on average, this is their figure, it takes the average household 19 minutes to decide what to watch on Netflix every night, which is something that I'm pretty certain they are pretty happy about. It's just, it's longer dwell time, and they constantly putting tons and tons of stuff on there. That 19 minutes is, I don't know, it's longer than it takes us in our household, but I don't know, maybe because I just ate my wife, so I don't know. But it's it does feel like an extortionate amount of time to really chew something, particularly when it's valuable time, like a Saturday night or something like that, which I thought were be an interesting little tidbit. All right, quick fire section here. This is more about if you're in sales or if you're dealing with other people. You're not necessarily selling a product, but maybe you're in services. You're trying to win people over, right? So again, this is behavioral science, not too much manipulation, but it's stuff that you can be doing to kind of shift the needle you know there. This one's about making their first yes a no-brainer. The reality is that small yeses, even subconscious ones, lead to bigger yeses. Prospects are more likely to follow through once they've already said yes to something even smaller. It's just how we're wired. Pre-commitment taps into our need to stay consistent. Create momentum before pricing. Offer a free consultation. Do a site visit. Sketch a rough plan. And ask things like, does this feel right so far? You want to fish for those yeses. Want me to map out a plan before we close? Small commitments build direction and trust and movement. And once someone something is in motion, they tend to kind of carry on from there. It's just how we're wired. That's the dominoes metaphor there. In the same breath, make it harder for people to say no. Momentum makes yes easier. People are more likely to agree when it feels like the work has already begun. That's the progress illusion. Once momentum is visible, backing out feels like stopping something that is already in motion. Smart businesses who are looking to close don't wait to start. They give indications that they already have. So this is something that back in my big agency pitch days, we'd be pitching for a big piece of FMCG business or something. You'd say, tell you what, as you're presenting an idea, you'd say, tell you what we've done. We've already bought the URL for you. And it's already done. All you have to do is push the go button. We're ready to go. It can influence people to go, oh yeah, so you mean the work's already done. You've already given them a head start. The team's already lined up. The materials are already. Basically coaxing people and making it really, really easy for them to say yes and make it really just a straightforward decision that they can make. And ideally, the push of a button. Make the end feel certain. We avoid choices where the outcome feels fuzzy. Some services can feel intangible in terms of the outcome. So you need to paint the finish line. I talk about how you make the cake. You're just selling the cake. They don't need to know about what goes on behind the curtain. They're just selling what the outcome is. What's the upside for there? Show what success looks like. Use phrases like, here's what done looks like. This is what you'll work away with. Here's how we know it worked. The clearer the outcome, the easier it is for someone to say yes. They don't need to know what goes on behind the scenes and how hard you have to graft and all the ins and outs. They just want to know what they're getting and how much they actually are having to invest in that. I think another little sneaky thing you can be doing before potentially putting a price in front of someone, which I do a little bit, is a little bit of anchoring. Before putting a price in front of someone, ask them how much they want to be generating as a result of working with you in that scenario. So they say, in my scenario, I'm in marketing. I say, okay, before the price is presented, How much are you hoping to see in terms of uplift inside 1 year as a result of the work that we do together? Ideally, they say X millions of dollars. Relative to the price you put in front of them after that upside, it anchors them to that price before you put a price in front of them. Okay, make missing out feel painful. You knew FOMO was going to be in here somewhere, right? Loss drives action. We feel loss more than gain. That's just how we're wired. Missing out hurts more than getting something feels good, which is perplexing, but it's just how we're wired as humans. Scarcity, exclusivity, FOMO, they work because we're aware something could slip away and action feels like regret. What's rare signals more than value. It signals status, belonging, and relevance. Don't just promote availability. Highlight what's disappearing. You'll see a lot of examples of this shortly. But keep it real. We can't build false urgency that something's disappearing. I've got a couple of examples of those coming up because it comes across as a little bit disingenuous if you can situate it in those scenarios. So a few things which you'll sort of have been exposed to probably in your day-to-days is this scenario on things like booking.com where they very handily tell you there's only 3 rooms left at this price. The unwritten language there is like, you better get in quick or you're going to miss out on this room. You see this a lot in this sort of industry where they're very deliberate, red, of course, conscious choice, that font. It feels like an urgent thing that you need to act on. Otherwise, you'll miss out. This plush octopus of other people want this. 14 people have this in their carts right now. You want to be one of the people to get in before those 14 people. This hairbrush thing. 14 people are currently looking at this product. Again, they don't need to necessarily have that there. That's social proof. It pushes you to make a decision in the moment, because if you don't, then one of those other 14 people might get that one before you get it, and then you miss out. Countdown timers on sales. I don't love them, but they do sometimes work in certain environments, particularly like Europe. This sort of stuff seems to go off pretty well. And equally, things like Black Friday sales and sale. Briscoe's does it constantly, so I don't think it necessarily works with that. But when a sale feels like it's ending soon, it does drive you into store to act before you miss out on that opportunity. Another super sneaky thing that has started to happen a lot more, which I find like Brits cleverness, but don't love the way they do it, is putting a timeout, a time limit on your checkout. So you add something to your bag or your cart, and if you don't follow that thing within a certain amount of time, you have to go back and find that thing in the size and the color that you wanted and start the whole process again. Quite sneaky and manipulative, but it pushes you to make a decision in that moment, and probably does pretty well for these apps. I think this is ASOS, possibly. So very, very sneaky stuff. Equally, exclusivity is a thing that you can leverage, to make people feel like they're on the outside of something they want to be in on. McDonald's do it really well with the McDonald's app. Sure, I'm not the only one with the McDonald's app. Maybe I am. But you do feel like you get exclusive deals there that you wouldn't kind of ordinarily get elsewhere, which they kind of call out quite a lot in terms of their messaging. Equally, it's limited time, only VIP exclusive offers is something that from the outside people just want to be a part of, and it doesn't cost anything really extra for you to kind of put that kind of messaging out there into the comms. Mighty does this really well. They're really sneaky. They have a subscription service that gives them just early access to new releases. So people in this sort of world, if you wanna be in and get those first tabs on those new kicks, then you've got to sign up to be a member, otherwise you're going to miss out, which these guys do really well. All right, next topic. If you find $50 lying around on the ground, which is these days is actually quite a lot of money comparatively, you feel pretty happy with that. It's like $1, so you gotta get a crate of beer or something. But however, on the flip side, you lose $50. That feeling of loss feels like the end of the world. Those are two very different feelings that people have. It can be $20 for some people. There's a big contrast there. And there's something that you can kind of play to, particularly in terms of your messaging. I'm working on that behavioral science, trying, shall we say, influence people to choose you over something else in that moment. So terms like only 3 left beats back in stock. Signals that something is slipping away and is not just available. Members only beats all welcome, makes inclusion feel exclusive. Missing out equals loss of status. Don't miss out beats don't forget. FOMO taps fear. Forgetting is neutral. Missing out feels bad. Last chance beats on sale now. Urgency from potential loss is greater than the incentive from the gain. And finally, offer expires midnight beats great value deal. A deadline equals the fear of loss. Value alone won't motivate action, which I think is super fascinating. Again, this is stuff that you can just be applying yourself in terms of how you frame your messaging out there, just to kind of drive up that urgency, make people hopefully cognizant to make a decision more but faster. Next section, make risk feel smaller with authority cues. So make your authority visible in terms of your comms or your website. Badges, certifications, endorsements from trusted experts, they act as shortcuts to trust and credibility. You might claim to be, the be-all and end-all of everything. I'm sure it's true, but it helps get your messaging through if you've got the backing of things like badges, or accreditation, which I'll show you shortly, or dare I say, an expert opinion. Authority cues de-risk complex high-stake choices. So a few examples which you see very deliberately splattered all over things like billboards or websites are accreditations from the likes of these guys. Master builders, whatever certified B is, which you see all over the place right now. I'm probably going to need to get one. I'm sure we're all going to need to, but it seems to be something that people look favorably upon. I'm sure there's a nice hefty price associated with that certification, but it's right. If it works, it works. These sorts of things, New Zealand made. Kiwis love New Zealand made. Aussies love Australia made more. To us, I haven't been over there, but it's just another little thing you can put on your website or on your packaging to influence people to choose you and to build that trust. Equally, who doesn't love the expert dermatologist explaining why the skin cream is scientifically proven with the luminous spheres, etc. It's an expert, very deliberate way it lab coats. This stuff works to just build trust with audiences who are considering you in that moment. Make them feel like they owe you one. When someone gives first, we feel compelled to give back. That's not marketing, it's human nature. We're wired for fairness. When a brand or a business helps before asking for anything, trust forms fast. A purchase decision feels safer, more justified. Smart brands feel goodwill before the pitch. They lower resistance by offering value upfront. Advice, samples, insights, access, give first, earn the yes. Now, a few examples of this, and this is not my intention here. Dare I say it, free events in rooms like this. I'm not fishing necessarily from any business from you, but if you put good into the universe, dare I say it, you do good by people to give them free value. Not only do they you guys are getting exposed to what I'm about, I'm getting understanding of what I know. And also sort of getting, you're effectively giving free value. It builds goodwill, and that puts you on a front foot, dare I say it, versus the competitors. And this, you see this playing out all over the place. These are expensive, courtesy of our friends at Cartology to do in-store sampling, but the stuff works. The stuff drives sales. Not necessarily because you feel sorry for the people who are peddling that, the stuff that's there. But you feel like there's reciprocity at play there. You're getting something for free. You almost feel like you owe something to them. You give it a shot in that moment. And you see that happen in services as well. So I say LinkedIn Premium. I don't know if anyone else just waits for the next LinkedIn Premium and goes, that free little month, you make sure you bail before you get stung. Or if you've got businesses that can bankroll that extortionate cost. It's nice that they can make that available to people, and I certainly could take them up on that offer because there's no risk, there's no obligation whatsoever, as long as you cancel your credit card before that date. Otherwise you're killing yourself. Styrize it. Other situations which I think are interesting are people like NordVPN. They'll kind of tell you get your money back if you don't like it, or you get your money back. Well, it feels like there's no risk at all for you to try something. It sort of just demystifies what you're offering, and you become effectively disarmed. I think it's a really good opportunity if you can afford to do so. Gift with purchase. This is Goop. So whenever you buy anything from this website, you get a little pottle of whatever stuff is there, glowy skin something. Which you don't get. Why not? Because if you're on the fence on something and you can offer a free gift with purchase as added value, maybe buy some sort of a deal you make on the side with someone. I think it's a good opportunity for you to push someone over the edge and to make a decision to choose you. I'm told that Mecca are really good at this in terms of their gift with purchase. I believe that they actually allow you to choose monthly in their gift with purchase that you get. I think it changes up a little bit, which makes that added value even better. You don't just get what they tell you, you get to choose from a range of things, which is, I think, a good opportunity for their partners as well. Quite disarming. Obviously, low-hanging fruit, buy one, get one free. So that's, if you can afford to do so, I think it's a good way to kind of get people through the door. I see this a lot. I do this. I'm sure a few of us in this room do the old book free consultation. Not necessarily free. It's an opportunity for you to get in front of someone and you're effectively taking a brief from them in that moment, but you frame it as a free consultation where you are giving them some value, but it's also an opportunity to get in front of someone, hear their problems and try and unpack it. You can actually offer them some form of value that can help them out in that moment. Equally here, brands do a kind of thing with us. Hey, tell you what, buy something from us now and you'll get money off your next purchase. So you're also sort of effectively swindling a little bit of loyalty there as well as some coaxing them over the line in the moment. It's effectively building longer term favor with people. Finally, for this section, I do love the good old-fashioned value add. I think people like my team do it really well. They're not necessarily selling something. You can go to their website, you get an easy guide on how to put up that gutter or whatever it is, or how to build that thing. They're not trying to sell you anything. It's just helpful advice. And because they're doing you a solid, the theory at least is that you'll get them back because they're good folk. This is also a natural expression of the way they show off as a brand at the moment. See what they're advertising. They've got a guy who's in store who's kind of with you every single step of the way. This is a nice way of executing that marketing strategy. Make them feel like it's already theirs. We value something that we already feel we own, even before we actually own it. When something feels personal, familiar, already part of our lives, we don't just want it, you start to fear losing it. That imagined ownership drives up desire. It pushes people closer to saying yes. And because the moment they start picturing life with it, not having it becomes a harder choice. And we'll see some examples of that. I'm sure that a lot of us will be familiar with here. There's a reason why test drives are something that car salesmen push so much. If you're experiencing what it'll be like to be behind the wheel of a car, you always got the sales guy going, yeah, you look good in that seat. All those sorts of things that coax you to make a decision. It feels like it's yours in that moment. It should push you closer to making that decision to actually purchase. These guys have done it really well. I think Apple effectively changed the way you can interact with devices. And now everyone does it. Used to be back in the day, phones would be behind these sort of locked cabinets. Couldn't really touch them. They'd be in the boxes. Apple made the products feel like something you already ordered it because they're in your hands. You can kind of be quite tactile, swipe through things, and now pretty much everyone does it, which I think is just really interesting. Equally, you don't necessarily need to get people to leave their homes to get a sense of what your thing or product could look like in their house. Obviously, all things like augmented reality work for the likes of IKEA. So you can see this beautiful couch and how it looks in your setting without needing to leave your home. And then you're experiencing a little bit what it's like to have that thing before having to purchase it. You may even do this with things like glasses. You can use a webcam, enable the webcam, can sit there and choose glasses without having to go to the store. It literally just sort of maps it onto your face. Like, oh yeah, those look good. And then they'll coax you to make a decision where, particularly in this world, perhaps if you're looking for glasses, you might do a little bit of online research. You're not necessarily going to want to schlep out to go see what the glasses look like if you can see them on your face via some form of webcam in that moment. It's just nice, sneaky stuff. How to earn trust fast. I'm going to go through this section a little bit quicker. The Benjamin Franklin effect shows that when someone does you a small favor, they're more likely to feel positively towards you afterwards. Not because you persuaded them, but because they've already invested in you. So when you ask for a perspective, you signal respect. You show you value their time and their experience. You come across as someone who listens, not someone who pushes. And people who are more inclined to buy from those that they're aligned with. And this is something that I unashamedly do. I'm an NPD in what I do. I approach business owners not to sell, but literally gain feedback. I've probably done it to a couple of you in here, where I literally just approach them, hey, come in your product. As you would do with any new product, you ask the market what they think. 99% of the time you'll get in front of someone because they go, oh yeah, I'll have your help. But then that effectively starts the conversation with people and you can kind of go from there. It's a little bit more disarming than kind of just going straight in with a cold sales pitch. It's been a Ben Franklin effect. You see it flared a little bit in some comms. It's probably more of an interpersonal thing, but again, if you can kind of go out there with message you're willing to hear and listen and take feedback, it's quite a nice way to disarm people in that moment as well. Which is a nice segue to this section. Of these three things, I think probably fairly obvious with most of this fifth form economics, is which of these three channels, word of mouth, online opinion, or advertising, is the most powerful? Yeah, by some margin. 92% of people asked trust word of mouth above and beyond everything else that they see. Even online opinions like Google opinions, or dare I say advertising. And that impacts sales. You're 5 times more likely to sell something if you've got word of mouth behind you, or you're being told by your auntie and your cousin that so you trust that person's perspective and you're more likely to get it. Customers who love you will market for you more powerfully than you can possibly market yourself. And that's free. So you don't have to pay those people to say those nice things about you. But how do you earn that word of mouth? Really is as simple as this. Starts with trust. People don't recommend brands because they're surprised. They recommend brands because they feel safe. You don't need to over-deliver to earn word of mouth or go above and beyond. You simply need to deliver exactly what you said you would. And what you promise. It's just delivering to that expectation. No theatrics, no above and beyond, just meet the expectation, but do it consistently. It's really important you show up consistently. It makes it easier as well. You don't have to over-deliver every time. You just do what you said you were going to do. When customers know they'll get what was promised, they're comfortable putting their name behind you. Do what you say, do it well, and do it repeatedly. We've got a few examples of this. This is Henry. He's probably our firstborn, if I think about it. He's been in our family for about 16 years. It's a vacuum cleaner, if it wasn't abundantly obvious. I bought this when I was living in the UK, and I was like, okay, need a vacuum cleaner. There's stuff everywhere. Ask a few mates, what's a really good vacuum cleaner that's going to do the job? People in the UK said, look up Henry. I looked it up. Yes, it looks a little bit quirky, but it's an absolute beast. And I'll tell you, 16 years later, it's still just as good as it was when I first got it. These guys have earned heaps and heaps of favor. They've been around since, I think, the 60 years. They don't do advertising. They don't need to do any marketing. They're just good. It's just a good, durable product that continues to just work and work and work. It doesn't have all the fancy pants, Dyson, this, that, and the other. Doesn't need to. You need something like this to suck up the thing from the ground, and that's pretty much what it delivers consistently. Ideally, you won't need to buy another one of these pretty much forever, and that's the promise that they deliver. You see it happen a lot with things like, dare I say, cars. Toyota Corolla is the world's most leading car, but it's sold more cars than anything else, particularly in New Zealand, dare I say it. It's known for its reliability, low maintenance, great resale value, and generations of Kiwis recommend it. Sistema don't do a lot of marketing. They're just known as they're amazing ranging. They take up pretty much that whole section of the supermarket, and they're known for just delivering a good, durable product that you really just need to buy it once, and it'll do the job for you moving forward. Doc Martens, if you went to school, or dare I say private school in New Zealand, you were the cool kid, and still out of your head, the Doc Martens. Not only could they kick the hell out of your shins, but they just lasted forever. Really, really durable product. Pretty much buy one pair, assuming you didn't have a growth spurt, and then they'd see you out for a while. Again, they haven't had to do too much marketing. They've earned their word of mouth just because they're good at what they do. Make choosing you feel safe because others have. When we're unsure, we look to others. That's not weakness. That's wiring. So testimonials and social proof is really important, and it's something that we can actually organically coax other people. We're not just seeking the best, we're seeking confidence. Social proof gives us that shortcut. Show that you're trusted, trending, and chosen, because when someone sees others picking you, the choice feels safer. So you see examples like bestseller sections. Again, you see this in my Paper Plus, etc. Other people read this stuff, so you might like it too. It just helps provide a shortcut for people in that moment. Google reviews is still something that a lot of people put a lot of trust in. About 81% of shoppers research a purchase online before purchasing something. Google still receives, in New Zealand alone, 263 million site visits. A lot of people look at those stars. If you can, I always do it. If someone comes in, I someone remove the tree from my neighbor's roof that fell from our side last week. They do a good job. I just give them a good review and write a little something. I think it helps small businesses out. So it's good to pay up for it. So definitely, yeah. And if you do a good job, I don't think there's any harm asking your clients to give you a review afterwards. Find that 9 times out of 10, they'll be willing to do so. Back to the scenario, if you're like me, from time to time, you want to go on holiday, you kind of do your little bit of research. And again, when you're researching things like resorts, for example, it can become quite tricky for you to make a decision. There is one little badge that is frequently used to try and help influence people to make a choice, and that is, of course, the TripAdvisor badge. We've got that little top rated on TripAdvisor badge on your listing. You're more than likely, it costs nothing, and you're more than likely going to influence people to make a decision in that moment. And you see this sort of stuff happen in the way people choose movies. They look to the opinions of others. Rotten Tomatoes, Letterboxd, IMDb. That's how a lot of people decide what they're ultimately going to watch. They go, okay, is this movie any good? I'll see what it's rated on these things. Like, okay, it is good. Same with food. But people do use sort of Google and Open Table and TripAdvisor here in terms of informing their decisions in that regard. And in terms of sort of homeware, for example, Consumer, Price Me, Home Tester Club are things that people can sort of research and validate whether or not they're making the right decision in that moment. If you can find your way to kind of be in those sorts of scenarios, I think it's only a good thing. Trustpilot's one of them. If you're a service or a product, you can kind of manage to get onto here. It's again another authority source that people kind of look towards when making a decision of when they can't make a call. Equally, this one's a little bit sneaky. I put a bit in here is if you're on a website like this, every now and again you get a little pop-up in the bottom corner that says such and such a person has just purchased that product in your area. And I'll even put a little map in there sometimes. Again, it's just social proof. It makes you feel like you're not alone in making that purchase decision. It makes it feel safer in that moment. I've been burdened in the past with having to make quite a few ads with the inclusion of these sorts of things on them, on this insistence of the clients. They love them. Whatever Reader's Digest Trusted Brand Awards is, the clients love it. Canstar get the things like Best Brand Choice, those sorts of labels and wins. It kind of are brands' ways of showing that other people like them, and it gets you sort of early, dare I say, pre-favor. I practice what I preach, right? This is my website. I talked before a little bit about those news sites that I've managed to kind of get some traction on. This is my website. So I've been very deliberate. That this suggests I'm being talked about. I put that very deliberately up on the fold. If you're going to do any of this stuff, make sure that you're featuring that stuff above the fold so no one has to scroll. It's for you to be able to get that firm credibility in that moment. And equally, see in the bottom left-hand corner, I can verify this is true. I've said that 63 people have kind of been through this website in that week, which is, it's manual. I have to do that manually, but it's just a useful exercise. Again, conserved to be social proof, and it doesn't cost you anything extra. Notion, they do this as well. They say that they're trusted by these top teams. If you can list your clients and they're well-known clients, or they are different, some variety of clients, but effectively when a prospect is looking at you, they're going, oh yeah, they're like me. It's a good end for people. People can go, oh, well, if it's good enough to them, it's going to be good enough to me in that moment. Again, just put this above the fold. You don't want people to be scrolling down to get exposed to this stuff. Make choosing you reassuring with social proof at scale. Make demand visible. Why do restaurants with queues outside them feel safer than empty ones? You get this in London quite a lot. Because crowds signal quality. Some venues won't take online bookings on purpose, particularly in London. Like you'll try in the hall to make a booking and they'll say, oh, we don't do bookings. It's because they want this. This is basically human advertising, isn't it? Nothing markets a restaurant like a crowd trying to get in. We look to others when risk is high. Herd behavior reduces doubts. So next time you see a really heaps of queues outside a restaurant, bear in mind it's because they're not letting people book. You see these sorts of volumes online quite a bit. Trusted by 900,000 plus creators, trusted by 50,000 customers, 1,150 New Zealanders. That volume kind of builds trust and it kind of coaxes you to make a decision at that moment because the it disarms you. Trusted by 3 million clients worldwide. Make your name do the heavy lifting. But I believe, this is just an opinion, the best brand names don't necessarily need any tagline at all. Effectively, a tagline is effectively something which explains who you are and who you're for, and more or less it should. But if your brand name could kind of do that for you, it's quite a nice shortcut. They tell us what you do and why you're the right choice instantly. Clarity builds confidence. When a customer is searching for a specific need, your name signals expertise, relevance, and specialism without explanation. So this is a legit picture of my hot water cylinder about 2 months ago. And lo and behold, as far happens, the thing's exploded and there's water all over the downstairs. So in that moment, particularly in a crisis, the first thing you do, I'm not a hot water cylinder expert. I wouldn't do that, although my wife would love me to be, I'm sure. I have to kind of act in that scenario. Turn to Google, search a hot water cylinder. Then this is the actual outcome. I'm presented with 3 options. I could choose Plum Quick. I'm sure they'd be able to do the job. They're plumbers. I could choose Heron Plumbing, or I could choose the cylinder guy. In that moment, I think you can probably guess the one that I opted for in that moment. I felt I've got a broken cylinder. I need a cylinder guy. He's very good. Actually, they can be expensive, but good. And you kind of see that stuff to play out in the world all the time. Here's some examples. Just Cuts, it is what it says on the tin. You know exactly what you're going to get just simply from the brand name. I know it's nice to have a frilly brand name and something that can make people feel something, but particularly in like a SME space, I think it's helpful for you to just call yourself effectively what it is that you are. And particularly if people are finding you by things like Google search and they're looking for a specific solution to a problem they have, it's useful to show up and within some degree of expertise in that space. Color, I'm not going to dwell on too much because it's a bit hokey, but there is a degree of the color that you show up with in terms of your branding does have some influence in terms of how you want people to feel in that moment. Yellows are ordinarily associated with being warm, optimistic. Orange is about togetherness, support, friendliness. Red is impact, bold, passionate. Blue, which drives me nuts, is about trust. It's the most overused color. Apparently, it's the world's favorite color, but like 70%. 70% of humans say blue is their favorite color. Green, healthy, growth. Purple, creativity, wisdom, imagination. These things do make a difference. And the one example I thought I'd share in this case was just an interesting study that sort of took place when there was a test of 2 shampoos. One was in a white bottle, one was in a black bottle. Which one would you reckon sold 30% more in the scenarios was tested in terms of the bottle?
Black one.
So that's what I thought as well. However, it's the black one. People associated the black in that instance because it is anti-dandruff. That's the sneaky one. It's anti-dandruff shampoo. People want efficacy in that moment. People associated the black bottle with being, more scientific, and something which had more some power and potency in that moment. And that's where people tended to lean. Next section is about making things feel familiar. And I thought I'd get the analogy of, remember a song that got stuck in your head? And I'm putting K-pop Demon Hunters in here because potentially when I first heard a couple of those songs repeatedly forever, I may or may not have yelled, but over time, did I love it? But over time, you kind of get you get the tune. You can kind of, you catch yourself singing along a little bit. And that's just something that happens. Even the absolute bangers that you love these days, sometimes the first time you hear them, you don't absolutely love them. They kind of grow on you a little bit over time. It's just with constant sort of overplay and use. Familiarity changes perception. That's what's at play there. The more you expose someone, the same thing, become familiar with it, and it just becomes something you're just more comfortable with. So over time, which you just see in terms of the consistent way that a lot of these guys show up. Regardless of where you are in the world, if you go to McDonald's, if you're in Saudi Arabia or China, New Zealand, wherever, you're going to get more or less the similar sort of McDonald's experience. You're going to get the similar branding. That one there on the right is actually fresh. That's Ramadan. I think they've started doing some quite interesting advertising in terms of, I think when it's daytime, it doesn't have the chips there. And I think when it comes nighttime, there's chips inside the box there. Same with Ferrari, they always show up the same way wherever they know this consistency and they kind of build that over time. They build that equity. Johnny Walker's the same and same with Coke. It always can clock a Coke or a Coke ad or a Coke anything, as they always sort of tend to show up in the same way and kind of imbue the same feeling you do. Make realness feel reassuring. Perfection doesn't build trust as well as realness does. No one expects flawless. In fact, flawless feels robotic. The analogy here is that even if little Jimmy here is completely soiled your living room, they come up to you as those little puppy dog eyes and they say, sorry. You kind of immediately disarm. You can't be angry at someone who, even though they've made a bit of a boo-boo in this scenario, is apologetic at forthcoming and sort of presses up with the situation that has happened. And you kind of see that play out a little bit out in the world, that sort of that honesty and sort of showing up as very real is something which people like. Which one of these biscuits do you think people gravitate towards? Well, yeah, 66% of people gravitated towards an imperfect looking biscuit in a recent study, which is actually why I thought that the old Wendy's burgers just lean into that as well. It was like an imperfect sort of burger filling. People sort of just feel, some people they trust more because less manufactured. Interestingly, if I see this happen quite a lot, which one of these do you think feels more real? 5-star, all 5-star Google reviews for 250 of them, or 4.5 stars? Which one do you think people trust more? This is the lower one. So I see a lot of people going 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. People don't believe it. This is a study in 2022 of over 120,000 product reviews. Anything above 4.5 stars and purchase likelihood decreases. People just say, no, they're just budging out. They're just getting their mates to put the reviews in. Sweet spot appears to be in like 4.3-ish in terms of being the thing that people just trust that the most, particularly with volume, which I think is another little interesting tidbit. You don't argue manufacturing that. You don't want to necessarily do horrible stuff for people, so it's downer. But it's something that just I can overlook people who tend to trust. There's a well-known campaign for Timex that's leaned into a weakness. They sort of were unashamedly knowing that everyone's going for their little email watches. I don't have one, so I don't know what it's called. Smartwatch, sorry. So they said, so look, by the time without seeing you have 1,249 unanswered emails. There's a confidence in that. They're known for having these amazing timepieces. That's what they do. That's what they deliver. And it gains them quite a lot of favor in the space. I think there's an honesty in saying that your cough medicine tastes hideous, because again, that suggests that it works. It's not necessarily supposed to taste good. These guys lean into that. People swear by it and at it. It tastes awful and it works. I mean, there's an honesty in that. It's not trying to be everything for everyone. It's a well-known case study from 2018 for KFC. They ran out of chicken in the UK. And obviously the UK loves their KFC. So rather than kind of, some sort of try and manufacture something, they just sort of fessed up, had run a quite disarming ad. They've only ran once in the sun, but gained them so much favor and so much reach. It was something that was seen as a little bit of maybe they should lose chicken, goes that more up. Avis was, this is called the Pratfall effect, by the way, which I always enjoyed as a name. Avis is only number 2 in rent-a-cars, so we try harder. Again, it's a disarming message. They lent into the fact that they're not the market leaders and use that as a way to kind of disarm people, to kind of bring them in. You see this happening, brands using perceived weaknesses as strengths through the likes of Mainland. Good things take time. And I think a similar positioning to the likes of Guinness, which takes an absolute age from core to the half board and go there. They lean into that by saying good things that come to those who wait. Leaning into a weakness and turning into a strength, I think, is a good opportunity if that sort of thing is something you're exposed to. I can't stay in my mind, but they know that about me and they know that about their audience. And by admitting that it's not for everyone, it actually makes the people who love the brand love them even more. They feel like they're part of the in crowd. It's something that they lean really, really valid to. I think it's just an interesting space. How to make customers feel your value. Customers don't buy features. They buy benefits. Okay, so I'm going to give an analogy here and just to kind of explain the story, because too often I'm exposed to briefs where you just get a long list of product features, which ultimately end users and purchasers don't care nearly as much as you might think they do. So let's picture a scenario, right? Your air fryer, if you're an air fryer guy like I am, your air fryer breaks down, you need to head to Briscoe's, you get another air fryer. You can be exposed in that scenario. The whole row, you get to Briscoe's, you get a row of air fryers there, and they'll all show up the exact same way. They'll tell you they have 1500 watt heat elements. This is going to be on their packaging or on the signage. 12 heating functions, rapid air circulation, dishwasher safe basket. You get what I mean? It's all just, these are all just product features, but to the end user, they're not necessarily explaining how these features are actually improving their worldview or how they're feeling in that moment, or saying what their actual need state is. So instead of, did I say, 1500 geek boy element, dinner in minutes, even from Frozen, saying effectively the same thing, or just framing it as a benefit to the end user. Instead of 12 heating functions, fries, bakes, roasts, all in one device. Rapid air circulation, instead of that, crispy results, no oil mess. Flipping a feature to come across as a benefit, something that enhances your experience wherever possible. I think it's just a nice shortcut. If you're ever writing copy, or you're ever thinking about how you're going to sell your product, focus instead on the benefit to the person you're wanting to sell, and not necessarily just a big list of features. So, for example, is this a comfy mattress, or is it a better night's sleep? Is it an energy drink, or is this the feeling of being unstoppable? Is this gym membership, or the promise of transformation? Is this camera, or memories that last a lifetime? Is this an Italian language course, or the confidence to order dinner in Rome next year? Are these noise-cancelling headphones, or peace on a crowded glade? It's all about framing in the benefits to the person who's making the decision. Is this a great tasting low GI chalk malt powder, or a daily boost that powers play, sport, and study? So you get a picture there. Make the pain feel familiar. Okay, so we don't always question everyday frustrations. We adapt, we settle, we assume that's just how it is. But often that normal was set by the category. Small friends can challenge it. This spotlight that compromised people have normalized and reveal it was never necessary in the first place. Show people they don't have to live with the standard they've been given. So the reason behind this little dip here is this was me during COVID. I take ages to drink my coffee. It takes me like an hour and a half to get to the bottom of it. And usually, about the halfway point, your coffee's freezing cold and it tastes a bit gross when it's cold. It's just a problem I've learned to accept and live with. I still got to the bottom of the cup, but it was a bit gross. Lo and behold, not just quite somewhat fortunately, I stumbled upon an ad that literally said, "Say goodbye to cold coffee." This is a bit lame, but this is called an e-mug. I have one. It's cool. It's called the Ember. It's the most expensive cup I've ever had. It's like an app-built mug. But it means you don't have to carry around a thermos to slow at drinking your coffee. It just keeps it hot. You don't have to keep it in that little thing. It just keeps your coffee at the same temperature as it was when you first put it in. If you're a slow coffee drinker, it's actually pretty useful. So again, it solved a problem that I knew I had, but I didn't necessarily know there was a solution for through its marketing. So this sort of stuff you see again play out across categories. If anyone's a parent, they'll know that what happens in Huggies stays in Huggies is applying that with other nappies, you're not necessarily going to be able to contain that deluge. Again, no maintenance of filters, no bags to buy, no loss of suction. That Dyson are implying that other vacuum cleaners kind of lean that way. That's a problem that people have gotten used to. Again, by saying no more scrubbing, you're implying that, again, people have gotten used to having to scrub and don't need to anymore. No more tears technology for those of us who've had to wash hair and dealt with the tantrums of that. Again, these guys lean into that. They show that they get what parents go through when they're washing their kids' hair, and that's not an issue they have to deal with. Equally with this banana boat stuff. Their sun cream won't run into the kids' eyes. You're not going to have them screaming and yelling when something goes wrong. Make less feel like more. This one here is just about owning one thing clearly and confidence, and it's being single-minded. Can't be all things to everyone. Show up with just one thing that is effectively your superpower. If you look internally at your product or your business, there'll be one thing that you can do better than anyone else, and that's the thing that you should really be sort of shouting from the hilltops as a single-minded offering at an awareness level. So you want people to become aware of you first for being really good at one thing, ideally. And you see these sorts of examples playing out every day. I can say they own New Zealand's lowest food prices. Subway, everyone knows, is about fresh, make your own sandwiches. Trade Me, they found is where Kiwis buy and sell. That's what they're known for. The Warehouse, they've gone back to where everyone gets a bargain. It's good that they've got back to exam. And Red Bull gives you wings, something we're all associated with. BMW are the ultimate driving machine. Spotify is music for everyone. And Airbnb is belong anywhere. Single-minded propositions that really unpack who they are and who they're for. Something just to let it back to. Make your message feel like a breakthrough. I'm going to skim through this one here. This one's just about if you're dealing in a complex environment and what you'll sell as the perception of perhaps being a little bit tricky, goes without saying, make it sound easy in terms of your messaging. Sharesies has done this really well. They've kind of made, an investment feel like borderline child's play. The use of their colors, their language, invest how you like, easy crypto. Try to demystify how complicated cryptocurrency actually is to be involved in. They say, get wallet that makes crypto easy. How to be the brand that they'll notice and remember. Make distinctiveness your edge, right? So standing out and being different in a moment is really, really important. I'll give you a quick analogy on this one, which is a death metal festival from 2015 in California, where these metal festivals are generally, promoted with listings like this. And metal bands tend to show up more or less the same in every instance, with that kind of white spiking font on the black background. However, one band decided to kind of go a little bit different, adopted a bit more kiddie font, like kiddie balloons. And even though they were a lesser tier act, not a mainline headliner at all, they ended up getting the most attendance at their show, at that event, simply for showing up a little bit differently and just being something that people identified, and they were able to generate some entry. I talk about this stuff a lot. There are opportunities across every category for you to stand out. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen a lot. I'm not going to rant about it too much. Higher education, universities tend to be sold like this. It doesn't take too much to kind of spot similarities here. And when someone is making probably the biggest financial decision of their lives up to that moment, I mean, what would you have me choose when everyone's looking wistfully off to the metaphorical, be hopeful tomorrow? Same situation with aged care. It's all patronizing. None of this is real. I've put my dad into this sort of situation. This doesn't reflect how they're feeling, what they want, their need state, yet everyone continues to still show up in this exact same way. This is KiwiSaver, investment stuff, kind of comes across as condescending. Effectively tells you, you go frolic on the beach, we've got your money, so you go and have a good time. It's how everyone sort of shows up in the space. Beauty looks like this. Indulgence, unhealthy food is kind of sold to you by this because, it might be unhealthy for you, but if it gives you that feeling, then who really cares? It's kind of how it's always been done. Finance is blue, drives me nuts. ANZ and BNZ, someone's got to shift in there because everyone's got the same initials, for God's sakes. But it's because blue equals trust in their minds. It seems to be what people sort of keep laddering back to. Car manufacturers are effectively ellipses. It's a sad one, but charities lean too much into sort of trying to guilt you into parting with money, particularly on your social media feed. They might do you with the first one, but if you click on one of those, you're just going to get served up tips of horrific stuff. I tell charities to instead just focus on what's the answer. What happens if I donate? How does that change someone's life? Show that stuff, because that would cut through it in this space. These are all brand headlines from last year with the words "find your" at the beginning of them. All from big brands. Find your wonderful, find your flow, find your happy place, find your greatness, find your people, find your drive. It kind of starts to seal up with a silhouette. Suffice to say, there's a lot of opportunity out there to try and sort of differentiate and make yourself sort of stand out. We don't really love the liquid death example. However, they have disrupted a category that was ripe for it. And now they're a $1 billion USD company. They did that come from $3 million valuation 5 years ago, and now they're a unicorn. I pretty much just been sort of showing up differently and owning something and making it stick. All right, so I think we're pretty much at time here. So if, however, you want to follow this up, there'll be more opportunities to do something like this. Watch this space. I'll let you go. Thank you very much, guys.